I am extremely delighted and pleased to be here. I always get attracted to issues of agriculture. Having come out of a rice farm, and when we were growing up on that rice farm, we always wanted to get out of the farms, and we dreamed of going to the university, becoming some kind of professional. But when I look back today, I really feel sometimes that I need to get back to rice farming or agriculture in particular. And so it is such a pleasure to join all of you today and to be part of this inaugural Agriculture Mini Trade Forum that you had for the last 2 days. And I do so with a deep sense of gratitude and optimism about the prospect of agriculture in this country. I read the remarks of the Honorable Acting Minister Alithea Venivalu some time back about the importance of our primary industries, our agriculture, to the economic landscape of our country. And I think she quite rightly said what she had to say. I also read the Honorable Assistant Minister's opening remarks. And I know you talked about bridge markets and build futures. I think this is a very, very timely and relevant theme of this 2-day trade get-together that all of you had. It is, in my view, a tangible expression of our shared commitment to inclusive, sustainable and market-led trade that uplifts every Fijian from the fertile valleys and hills of Naitasiri to the distant shores of the Lao Group. I went to Lakemba and I was amazed at the fertility and the prospect of agriculture on that island. I know there are only 11% from Vanuatu, but Vanuatu is actually booming right now in terms of agriculture. So this forum has not only been, in my view, a platform for dialogue and exchange. I think it is also a celebration of partnership, of shared aspirations, and the spirit of Pacific cooperation. And again, I want to thank the New Zealand government, the New Zealand institutions. I've been a great advocate of much more deeper, more meaningful regional cooperation, including Australia and New Zealand with the Pacific. And I think these sort of gatherings reinforce and underscore the point that we need to work together. But more importantly, to our growers and exporters, I think your presence here is not only appreciated, I think it is essential. In fact, you are the foundation of our trade ecosystem. Your resilience, your readiness, and your commitment to quality and what give life to the policies we craft and the platforms we build. So you're not just participants in this forum, you are its purpose and the heartbeat of Fiji's trade hub. Again, to our New Zealand-based importers, thank you very much, Vinaka Vakalevu, for your presence and your partnership. Your engagement here marks a new chapter in our bilateral relationship, one that is grounded in mutual benefit, shared vision for Fiji and New Zealand and the broader Pacific. I think this face-to-face dialogue is a very powerful step towards building this enduring trade relationship. And it's built on trust. You know, we always say this in economics, that you may have a contract, you may know each other, but the trust that you build through personal cooperation is vital in any business, in any trade. And so I'm very pleased, and I want to thank all of you, especially the Ministry of Agriculture and Ministry of Trade, for organizing this, because bringing people together, building their trust is very important in trade and business. And as Minister of Finance and as a government, we are very proud and inspired that the Forum Alliance, its discussion, its ability to navigate and siphon through some of the barriers, some of the constraints, and I look forward to the whole report and the recommendations from the report, and I can already see things that we could do to further improve not only the quality of our product, but also build relationships, institutions, address pricing mechanisms to ensure that both our growers and our exporters benefit from. Our National Development Plan 2025-2029 and Vision 2050 calls for a market-led, coordinated and inclusive approach to economic development. In fact, as the Honourable Assistant Minister said, this is one of the most widely consulted National Development Plan, and it comes from the input from people who matter, people who are on the ground and people who will take action to achieve that. And our Vision 2050 to take Fiji towards a high-income country, to a large extent will rest on our ability to diversify our economy away from tourism to a much more diversified, and agriculture is going to form, commercial agriculture is going to form part of the agenda to do that. We are also committed to ensuring that the outcomes of this forum, as I said earlier, it's not going to be just on paper. We will start looking at some of the provisions, and I am very pleased to say that the coalition government, after so many years, if you look at the last 3 budgets, it is a very clear signal for the country that we mean business in supporting our agriculture generally. And that's reflected in the significant increase in the last 3 budgets for the Ministry of Agriculture. We have a very good implementation, monitoring and evaluation framework as part of our National Development Plan, and we are going to use that to ensure that we focus, we direct our budgetary support, our policies, and I know the late Honourable Minister, under his leadership, developed the non-sugar crop sector strategy, and I think that's a very significant step as well. So we are happy to support this kinds of gathering and the consolidation of the Fiji Trade Hub as launched by the Honorable Assistant Minister of Agriculture and Waterways, is a national promise. It's a national agenda. And I want to thank the Ministry of Agriculture for doing that. The market farm market model introduced through the New Zealand NPI Enhanced Pacific Market Access Partnership sets a market-led approach as the foundation for Fiji's export strategy. And by aligning production with market demand, this model promotes economic resilience, empowers local communities, and strengthens Fiji's reputation as a reliable source of high-quality goods across the Pacific region. And again, I want to recognize the effort of the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Trade, the Biosecurity Authority of Fiji, and as I said already in the budget, one of the things that we did was to bring the Biosecurity Authority of Fiji under the Ministry of Agriculture. And we expect the Biosecurity of Fiji to not only modernize its approach, to be able to see how global food chain, global trade imperatives, product differentiation, new technologies, new substitutes, and how we can promote agriculture trade not only in the Pacific but beyond Pacific, including Australia and New Zealand. We are also saying to our partners, Australia and New Zealand, we are always grateful for the support that we get, but we want to work together to ensure that there is no trade barrier as a result of quarantine issues. We want to deal with that collaboratively and in a way that protects countries that trade with each other. Sometimes these can be very sensitive issues. But as I said, we can't be relying on laws and practices that are 40 or 50 years old, because things have changed. And I hope that in the new location of the Biosecurity Authority of Fiji and the work that the Ministry of Agriculture will do with New Zealand, these issues will be resolved. And as a government, we are putting this right in front of the agenda to promote our agriculture sector and trade. The Ministry of Finance is also committed to supporting initiatives that build financial literacy, improve access to credit. In fact, I was reading this morning, global statistics has it that 80% of food production around the world comes through small growers, small farmers. Yet, the biggest problem they have is access to credit. I started my first job in the Fiji Development Bank as a loans officer. And I remember we were giving small loans to farmers. And many of them did very well. Many of them were able to pay back their loans and were able to improve the practices for farming. So we are ensuring that our fiscal policies, incentives, and public investments are aligned with the needs of modern market-driven agriculture sector. And we want our farmers to treat farming as a business, that it becomes bankable, that it attracts investment. And we provided funding to ensure that the Ministry of Agriculture, through its research, extension and training, as well as providing support for mechanization, that it is able to create value chains, drive exports, and most importantly, empowers our people, especially in rural and outer island communities, to take ownership of their economic future. So I would ask you to continue to champion these issues, this message, and let's equip our growers not only with tools and seeds, but with the knowledge, the networks, and financial systems they need to thrive as entrepreneurs. Because I've always believed that if our farmers succeed, Fiji succeeds. When we go to the market in the morning on Friday and Saturday, and we buy our food, we don't sometimes understand how women from Corvo, from Naitasiri, end up in the market on a Thursday or Friday, stay the whole night, and feed many of us in the urban areas. And that's why it is always important for us to understand and support these growers and put them in a network that they are able to benefit in a way that makes their farming activity or farming business sustainable and worthwhile in terms of the income that they drive. To our New Zealand partners, let me say Vinaka Vakalebu for your continued support and for Fiji's potential. I think your presence here today, in the last 2 days, and this interaction is really going to build further trust, and I think we will be able to better navigate some of those barriers or perceived barriers that are there. Your willingness to collaborate, share insights, and explore new trade opportunities speaks volumes about the strength of our bilateral relationship and our shared vision for sustained economic growth. I've always said to my New Zealand friends that we can do a lot more in agriculture, in trade, in business. And New Zealand is a very good model, when you look at ease of doing business, when we look at our own regulatory barriers, when we look at some of the things that we can improve on in terms of reforms, we can learn a lot from New Zealand. New Zealand may have its own challenges, but there are a lot of good practices that we can adopt, adapt, and learn from New Zealand Ministry of Primary Industries, Pacific Trade and Invest, from partners, and those businesses that are keen to work with us. We have a large Pacific Fijian diaspora in New Zealand. We want to connect with them as well. And as a government, we have made some changes to make it easier for a diaspora to come back. For example, one of the changes we made was if you have adopted New Zealand as your country, you've taken New Zealand passport, you don't have Fiji passport, your children don't have a Fiji passport. For our Itoke people, as long as you are registered in the Volonikau Mula, you can come back, live, reside, work, do business without even getting a Fiji passport. If you want to get your Fiji passport, we've also reduced the cost of getting Fiji passport back from $3,400 to $1,500 in the last budget. And the reason why we're doing that is because we very strongly believe that our diaspora have gone there, developed the skills, knowledge, and which would be very, very beneficial and useful for our people. And we invite them to come back and be part of the economy, part of the development agenda that Fiji has now put in place as part of its National Development Plan. And I want to urge all of you to carry on with this momentum, transforming some of these opportunities into prosperity. It is an opportune moment to look at building these partnerships, deepening these partnerships, making these partnerships more meaningful, and create that mutual beneficial ecosystem that we all want to share. And I know all of you have a lot of renewed energy now, having gone through these 2 days of partnership discussion. And I can assure you on behalf of the government that when you provide us with all the recommendations, I'm not saying that we will accept everything, but I already saw areas where we can work on, such as price stability, looking at issues of freight costs, looking at how we can support further partnership building exercises like this. And I do hope that this will become an annual event, that you can come together, continue to refine, continue to build that partnership so that we can not only promote agriculture as a major sector for development in the country, but also use agriculture, commercial farming to enhance our trade potential for Fiji. So once again, on behalf of the government, on behalf of the Honourable Prime Minister, I want to thank the Ministry of Agriculture, Honourable Assistant Minister, Permanent Secretary, and all those that have been involved in the organisation of this 2-day very, very important discussion. And I'm extremely delighted to be here and close this session. Naka Wakalebu, Dandamaga.